You're listening to the Secondtime Watches podcast with your host, OJ the OG.
Hey everybody, this is OJ Watley and Second Time, here with our good friend Lex Borrero. Lex,
hey,
welcome to Second Time, baby.
Listen, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited to talk to you. Read up on the pod, listen to it. So, hey, I'm excited to talk watches, talk culture, talk life.
Nothing makes me more excited. You're a living legend, Lex.
Oh, man, listen.
You're GQ Watch Collector of the Year 2025.
Isn't that crazy?
How old are you?
I'm 40.
40 years old. I mean, that's insane.
That is insane. I don't even know how that happened, but that's insane.
Did you look and see who the previous GQ Watch Collectors of the Year were? Like,
I didn't even know. Like, I don't want this. I just didn't even know about it. So Cam hits me up on Instagram, and it's when I found out that I was being named Collector of the Year. And I check out all the Cam, all the write-ups he does. He's incredible. And shout out to GQ, who I've done a lot of things with, but I just didn't know that even existed.
Yeah.
So it was a huge surprise to me. I was as surprised as you are. I was like, me? This guy?
You got the right guy?
Yeah. But hey, listen, I'm super excited. Shout out to everybody on that list, because there's some heavyweights on that list. Waco shout out to Waco and those guys and everybody else who has. But for me, it was amazing. It's a good stamp of approval on my kind of way of collecting, how I feel about the community.
Sure.
How I feel about watches and how I feel about the emotion behind them and the storytelling behind them. So
absolutely.
Shout out to GQ and Cam for everybody, I guess, who voted, because I guess it's a voting thing too. Yeah. So shout out to everybody who voted. Let's go get it next year too, because it's got to be a couple of years.
Well, all those Miami Watch Club guys probably helped with your voting too, right?
Hey, shout out to the club.
Miami Watch Club. Yeah, man, absolutely. So let's see. So I consider you like a superhero, as far as I'm concerned. You're a superhero in the watch and music world. You're obviously a massive, famous producer in the musical business. You've worked with some of the biggest and the best, man. But I want to hear, your superhero origin story. Where did it start? And I'm not talking about music. I'm talking about watches.
So my dad was a race car driver. Growing up, I grew up on the track, and I always saw his tag that he had to use, because he raced rally.
Like the stopwatch?
Yeah, the stopwatch.
Yeah, that big one, the big plastic one.
Yeah, okay. Well, he, the metal ones, by Tag Heuer, and he by Heuer actually, not even Tag at the time. And I just always was like amazing. I always touched him in the car, in the rally cars. And then as time went on, he was also a collector. So he always used to collect the small Matchbox cars. Uh-huh. So growing up, I just had this collector environment in me, and I just loved collecting anything. So it started with like small cars, to then, moved on to collecting superhero watches. And so I used to love like Batman watches and those kind of things. And I was at the time, this was, I was like maybe 9 or 10. I had just come to the U.S. I didn't speak a lick of English.
So you came from Colombia.
I came from Colombia. And I came to the U.S. in an area where it wasn't the nicest, and I had to very quickly learn the difference between protecting myself and not getting bullied and getting into it. So I built a rough skin, but I had this superhero complex. So it's funny that you said, because I knew I knew that I could do something great. I knew that I had these leadership skills into it. So it started with superhero watches. And, it wasn't a specific brand. It was just anytime I would see anything that was a watch and a superhero watch, I would do that. Or anything that was car related at the same time. Mm-hmm. As I started to get into the music industry at 16 and go from being, a homeless guy in New York City to becoming an accomplished producer, we had the aspirational thing of looking at rap magazines and the gold, presidential Rolex.
And all the blinged out stuff.
The blinged out stuff. And so at first it was like, I want a Rolex. And so I got my first Rolex. At the time, I was not yet a successful music producer. I was working as the manager of the floor at Expedia.com, right, at the call center. And so I had a pretty decent job. And I would then use my time, like my weekends, to fly to New York City to shop my music.
Okay. So where were you working with Expedia?
So here in Miami.
In Miami, okay.
Yeah, so I was working in Miami at the call center. And
was that like, were you speaking Spanish? Or was that?
No, at that point I already spoke English. I was, I had just graduated high school. I was about 17 years old. So at this point I talk more English than Spanish.
Sure.
And so I was, at the call center selling people like the trips and helping people book their trips. And I made a decent salary, nothing crazy, but I was making, $4,000 or $5,000 a month. But I was taking all my money of the week and I would not spend it on anything else. I drove a shitty car just so that I can go to New York City to shop my music. This was before I made the complete move to New York City. And because of that, I went to Mayer's in, I think it was Dayland at the time.
Dayland? That was a big store too.
Yeah. And I went to Mayer's in Dayland, and I saw a GMT two-tone, and I said, okay, I want it. And I would look at it. I would go consistently. And one day the guy came and
visit
said,
the watch. So this is pre-COVID, obviously, right? What year is this?
This is 2002.
Yeah. And this is when watches were actually in the cases. You
Yeah.
could try them on. They'd actually welcome you into the store.
Well, and the guy was like, hey, you know that you could finance this? I was like, what?
Yeah, they love that. Right? Like 3 years interest free.
So I financed the watch. 2 weeks later, I go to New York City. I'm shopping my music. I get to the airport on Sunday, and Spirit Airlines says, hey, we have oversold your flight. If we have anybody who's willing to stay, we'll give you 3 free flights. And I was like,
The bump.
I stayed. That Monday, I got fired because I think they knew that I stayed. I said I was sick, and they're like, you lying. So I got fired, and that particular watch took me like 5 years to pay it off. It ruined my credit, but I was so determined to pay this damn Rolex off. I still have the watch. I was going to bring it, but I've talked about it before.
So it's a stainless and gold GMT. Is it the ceramic?
Ceramic.
Ceramic, okay.
Then from there on, started making, became a producer, broke into the music industry, started making some money. The second watch was a Batman. Third was a Frederick Constant World Timer.
Yeah, Frederick Constant World Timer. That's a great
That's a great. I
Nothing
loved
wrong
it.
with
Nothing
Frederick
wrong.
Constant.
All at Mayer's, right? Because it was like my first thing at Mayer's. I didn't really know about horology in that way. I just knew what I liked and didn't. And
Sure.
I don't think a lot of people were betting on Frederick Constant then, but I bet on it.
Yeah.
To this day, it's a brand actually I like.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, then I got into the music industry, became successful, and the journey really went from like heavy Rolex to then, Jacob and Co. came out with the 5 times. So that became a big thing. Then Jay did the collaboration with Hublot, and Hublot started to become, so moved into Hublot, then moved into AP. And then really it was right around that time where Jay released the AP watch that I was like,
oh yeah,
this is like, I got it. Now I'm in. But this is not a reflection of who I am. I'm an artistic, I'm a creative, I'm a disruptor by nature. And I wanted to go find things that were disruptive. And then that's when I started to bet on independence and vintage. And I wanted to find different pieces that nobody was doing. And And thankfully, because my job required me to travel around the world, I got a lot of culture and I got to experience a lot of things like the Cartier crash really early on. And these things that I got, way before there was a hype for any of these things. Including, the Clover, which is a watch I think most people know me for now. And I think I've made it hot. People now are requesting it left and right. But it started from this aspirational music industry component of like being flashy and like making the dreams happen and being in the music video to then like, okay, now it's a reflection of me and it's really broad. My collection, touches everything from a Timex to modern things, but heavy vintage and definitely independence. And I love where the watch industry is today and the space that is opened up for new people to come in and play in the sandbox. So,
yeah, absolutely. It seems like the barriers to entry have been very much removed, and all you need is a good name and a good story, and and it's almost not even about the education anymore, which that used to be like the entry to barrier. You need to be a watchmaker. You need to go to the school. You need to be a watchmaker for 20 years before you can even think about putting your name on something.
It's similar to the trajectory that the music and entertainment industry have come to be, because it's no longer about the voice. Right? Before it was all about the voice and the talent, and then we would make you a superstar because we would train you to become a superstar. Nowadays is a story, how to communicate that story to a fan base that engages on you. And then what you see happening is, unfortunately, it's harder than ever to become a mega superstar because these artists break into the world without the proper training. And so they might amass massive amount of views and streams, but then they get to the stage and they never really perform. And so they don't have that superstar aura. And so by the time they figured it out, the fans are already into it and they're on to the next artist.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's kind of similar to, I guess, a bit of what's happening to the watch business, which is beautiful that you have large independents and these micro brands that really are just based on marketing and really cool story and cool dials. but it's harder than ever to say, go and become a Rolex again or become a mega brand or a Richard Mille.
And there's also that paradox where, if you make too much, you're a sellout.
Yeah.
But if you make too few and you're only selling them for, a few $1,000s or a few $100s, but there's a lot of brands that are making a great go of it, it seems like.
Yeah.
And it's all marketing at this point,
All marketing. It's all storytelling. I say that to every brand that I talk to. Is no different than music. I think my background in music and film gives me an opportunity to really approach the watch industry and the car industry in a different way because it's all storytelling. People are still buying from emotion first, then knowledge and wisdom, and secondary. And COVID helped the wisdom part of it because people were watching and getting content like this podcast to learn more about watches, but still emotional first. For the mass majority of people, they are not they don't know what a tourbillon is, right?
Sure.
And they don't know how to use it on a daily basis.
They just want to see the skeleton.
Yeah, they just want the skeleton, and they want the emotional. Yeah, they want the emotional. They want to know that it's doing something for them. It creates that. So,
so
part of it.
After you came out of your Rolex phase and your Frederick Constant phase, was there a seminal watch where you were like, this kind of represents who I am? And for me, it's Panerai. That's my brand. Was there a seminal event or a seminal watch where you were like, Rolex is just fine, but there's lots of other stuff. And,
I got to say, I'm a lover of vintage AP. It talks on a time where watch companies, especially the major brands, were not worried about market share or money. They were all kind of in the same place. So they were like, okay, let's just try a bunch of random things. Let's go try, pull over a shape, right, and give it. And so vintage AP to me was really where I was like, oh, these different shapes and sizes and movements and ideas behind the watches. And I still think the vintage Royal Oaks are the best. The modern to me are too big to just, good for the new consumers, but just not for me. And so AP, I think, was the brand that really got me into it. And also, too, at the time, they were being innovative in how they related to music and entertainment.
Well, yeah, they had the Jay-Z, the Jay-Z offshore.
So to me, was like, they're a cool brand. They get me. They represent me. Where the other brands felt a little bit external from me, right? I wasn't going to the U.S. Open or things that Rolex, and I love Rolex as well, but AP really was the brand that represented, and vintage AP for me was the beginning of. I mean, the fact that
Jay-Z was an ambassador and so closely associated, you think that had a lot to do with it, or?
It had a lot to do with the intro to the brand, but then I started to go deep into it, and this
what
is
about
a
that music
watch.
The AP Royal Oak music watch?
Believe it or not, it's not my favorite.
I don't particularly like it, and I don't quite understand why they made it. Yeah, but it's out there. So,
but it's cool that they made it. My point is that Patek would have never done that. You know,
sure.
Rolex would have never done that.
Sure,
and that's to my point. And again, the two other brands that I respect and love, but. It was the risk taking. It was the out of the box approach of doing things that didn't feel like the norm. And I'm a disruptor, so I respect disruption in company. I respect, for example, what H. Moser is doing now, and having I don't know how many people already have got the very rare tattoos and that kind of subculture of we're rebels at the beginning. That idea of it to me it is what drives me as a creator. So for me, AP was that.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see. So tell me, I want to hear your craziest watch story.
Early Kanye was touring. I'm working parts of the tour here in Miami. I show up, we're about to take a picture, and I have a Jacob 5 time zone completely iced out. Right?
Sure.
That I had like that famous line he says, I went straight to Jacob and I spent my advance. I definitely spent my advance on Jacob & Co. at that time. But the funniest part is I never forget him. He didn't have a watch on at the time. He just had his chains, and he was taking the picture with me. But I had this iced out watch. We were going to put it on. And he's like, nah, you can't take the picture with me like this.
You can't be wearing a nicer watch than I'm wearing.
And he brings out the perpetual calendar skeleton AP.
This is
Kanye. And I saw that watch, and I was like, okay, that's the watch I want. And years later, I buy as part of my collection still. It's, part of the Grail collection. But it was that moment that to me was like, this man stopped the whole thing to stun me. And I was expecting ice. And he brought class.
Right.
And that was, again, like vintage AP. It was like,
and what year was this again?
this was 2005, 6?
Yeah.
Early, right?
Yeah. Way. That's like infancy.
So that's one. The second one that I think is really, really interesting is this Daytona. Now, you know, regular Daytona ceramics, nothing out of this world.
116-500.
Yep. But one of my mentors and business partners, his name is Tommy Mottola.
I heard of him.
Yeah. So for those of
That's
you
the guy that was married to Mariah.
yeah. So those of you
And
that
he
might
was the
not
president
know,
of Sony, right?
he's the president of Sony. He revolutionized the music industry.
Yeah.
He created the Latin explosion. Jennifer Lopez, Ricky Martin. There is no Latin industry without him today.
Sure.
And you know, a grill in the music industry. Now, if you know Tommy or you have seen Tommy's character and kind of his demeanor, he's a sweetheart, but he's the kind of the definition of it, New York Italian, right?
Yeah.
And so
That's tough love.
tough and powerful and all of the above. And shout out to Tommy.
Tommy Mottola.
But Tommy, we're in the Hamptons, and he tells me, I have a gift for you. And he was so excited. And it was his wife's birthday at the same time. And where I'm sitting on a bench, think about it like this. He comes from behind me. He gives me this bag. So I open the bag. And now he's standing over here. I open the bag. I right away notice it's a Rolex box. I'm like,
So
nah.
what year was this again? I'm sorry.
This might have been like 2020.
Okay.
Beginning of COVID.
Pre-COVID?
Pre-COVID, 2019.
Okay.
I get the watch box. I'm like, this is incredible. I can't believe Tommy's giving me a Rolex. I pull the rocks out. I open the box. It's empty. He asked me, he's like, bro, do you like it? And I'm like, you mother beep. Like, man, how you gonna play this joke on me? I'm thinking he's playing the joke.
Well, you didn't wait till you got home to open it. You're at
No, because he wanted me to open it right there. We're at the park, right in front of
Gotcha.
right in front of the lake in the Hamptons. And he's like, bro, do you like it? Do you like it? And I'm like, bro, you mother beep. How you do this? How you gonna play this joke on me? And he's like, what do you mean a joke? I said, Tommy, there's nothing in the watch box. Tommy, this is Tommy Mottola. Rah! Calls the dealer, you mother, you embarrass me, you kind of blah, 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 like just goes off, right? Because the watch dealer sent the watch box and forgot to put the watch in. I've never.
You looked at the warranty card and saw what it was, right?
There was no warranty card.
You didn't even know what he was giving you. You have no idea what he's giving. It could be a date just 36 for all you know.
I've never seen my friend be so upset, and I would not want to be on the other side of that man being upset because he's the biggest sweetheart, but he's also, and he like got in his car dipped, and I didn't even know what to say.
He just left?
And we were all.
It was his wife's birthday party. He just left.
Just left. He was so mad, but.
Wow.
I didn't even know what I got home that night and I was like, what do I say? Do I text? So I just texted him and said, man, you know, it was just a thought. Thank you. I didn't even know what to say. I was so embarrassed for him and I didn't know what to say. But when the watch finally came, it was engraved. And sorry, this was July 18th, 2021. So it was actually in COVID. Loyalty and trust for me are everything. Tommy Mottola.
Wow, that's cool.
So,
I get shivers from that.
You know?
Let me see that. Let me feel the energy from it.
So
wow.
for a kid who dreamed of being in the music industry to be able to be at a position where someone like Tommy,
that is pure class. Dude.
you know, mentored me and obviously even was willing to give me something so precious as that. It's a watch I'll never sell. It's a watch that I think will one day go in the museum of Lex or somewhere. But like. I love that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
Wow. What a class act, man. What a class act.
So
how long after that event did it take for you to get the watch? Was it days or weeks?
No, it was like a month. Like July.
Month?
That thing was like in there. Yeah. Yeah, like I think I don't know what had happened. I think the guy ended up selling it to somebody else. I forgot at the same. You know. Typical, like we were talking earlier, you know, you don't know who's who. Whether the music industry,
thieves?
Yeah, whether the music industry or the watch world is worse, you know, up to judgment of the crowd. But That's some random. I tell you, I would not want to be that dealer though, because
I just want to feel the energy coming off this, man, because there's just nothing but good juju coming from this.
Hey.
You know, this is, and imagine this watch will be around long after you're gone.
Yeah.
You know, and who will be wearing it, and will they know that story? You know, and they will from this podcast at the very least. Say that much. You know, so that was I love that story. All right, so what would you say were some of the seminal moments or watches where you kind of turn that corner from being your average collector to being, you know, GQ Watch Collector of the Year 2025? Like, tell me more about that journey. And some of the watches that marked, you know, the path of that journey, for example.
I think the start of it was the Kanye AP, right? The 1991 perpetual calendar.
Yeah. Wow.
Second to that was definitely the crash.
Yeah, Cartier crash, which no one ever gave a shit about.
And I got lucky.
Maybe
some,
early. I associate that watch with like old money, you know, French Parisian money. You know, those guys knew what the crash was because their grandpappies were having the crash made for them. You know, but crash, no.
Yeah. And so I was lucky to get pre-COVID on that. And
was that like a subscription piece then? Because it was I'm sure you got the biggest one they make, right?
I got the Paris edition.
Okay.
So I got the Paris edition. And the honest story about that was I went to Paris Fashion Week, and the person next to me was wearing this watch. I had never seen this watch. Because again, I think what a lot of people don't understand is that my journey into collecting still was secondary to the insane amount of work I had in the music and entertainment business.
Sure.
So I traveled the world, but I very rarely had a time to say, I'm going to go sit and watch like YouTube content on watches or like read a book on watches. It was more like I saw something I loved, regardless of the cost and value, or I'm going to lose it. I wasn't looking at investment. I was looking at, I love that. It represents me. I'm going to get it. And then once I have it, I would look into the story of it, but never pre-buying the piece. Like I was not that guy. I wasn't searching the world for the specific piece.
Right.
It was coming by moments like the Kanye moment or moments like I was being in Paris Fashion Week.
Right.
And
so you go to Place Vendôme and you go to the Cartier flagship store there?
He had this watch and I asked and I was actually hoping that he spoke English because, you know, we were in the middle of the runway show and I was like, God, please let this guy speak English. And he spoke English and then I found out about the crash.
Was the guy like a famous guy or was he?
No, he was in the fashion business. I actually don't know anything about him after that, but like it was the first time I saw the watch. And then and
you were just drawn to it, right?
Drawn into that.
Like all I think about is Salvador Dali when I see that watch.
And then that really became like, hey, to all my friends who I knew, and shout out to Michael and Yanni at Material Good, who Michael I've known for a very long time, close friend of mine. And I would just talking to him at the time and say, hey, if you come across anything that seems like really interesting, but you might not sell in your store, holla at me. You know? And they did. You know, consistently he would find things that just people would offer him or that would be rare, and they would start sending them things, and I just started picking up things that were different. And then I also, on my travels, like, you know, FP Journe, and I got to get into FP Journe early with the Elegante, not because I knew that it was going to be FP Journe. I didn't even know who Journe was, to be 100% honest. I just liked that it was a watch that I could travel to South America, that was quartz,
right?
That still felt like just like easy to wear. I could put a black band into it. Nobody would know what it was. You probably wouldn't
be mugged for it because nobody knew what it was.
But I love that it, like, the idea that I picked it up and it would restart itself, like all those ideas, you know, Jordan being Jordan.
I mean, that was the coolest thing, that you could leave that watch down for a week, pick it back up, and it would circle around to the correct time. Like that, I had that watch for 5 years, 4 years.
So I've had that.
So did you buy that Elegante when it was $8,500, when it was $25,000, or when it was $65,000?
I bought it when it was about $15,000.
$15,000.
Yeah. And, you know, now I have a great relationship with the brand and collect other pieces from the brand. But that was the journey. It's always been through traveling the world and seeing people wear random pieces and random things that really grab my attention to want to explore different things. And that's the same way about everything I collect. You know, I kind of, if you go to our office, I have like toys from all over the world that like, kind of like what you have in your office that represent different times and eras in my life and my career. So my collection and my journey really has always been around moving in culture and being inspired by people or things that I see in designs.
Sure.
And then diving in. And then I would say...
And it seems like you go deep, too.
Oh, yeah. I would say that it was... this is kind of the beautiful part of how my life has worked historically is last year around this time, I knew that I wanted to step out of doing music and entertainment, right? I started to say, okay, I've built this incredible life, but you know, the music industry and entertainment is a water full of sharks. And so you are very careful with your friendships. And I was ready to build community around the things that I love. Yeah. I was ready for somebody not to ask me for a favor for what I did, you know? And so I decided to start watching some watch content, card content. I finally put a flag down in Miami to stay here consistently because I've lived in 5 different cities over the past 23 years.
So you're planting solid roots.
Solid roots, you know, had my daughter. I started collecting vintage Porsche, and which I've always loved, but I traveled all the time, didn't have the space for it. Now I collected it. And then in my building, we were renting one of our offices because we stopped using it. And my CFO calls me and says, hey, I think there's some watch guy who's renting the space. And I'm like, yeah, what's his name? He's like, it's Adam from Menta Watches. And I was like, oh, that's so funny.
That's Midtown 7, right?
Yeah. So I hit him and I said, hey, I heard you're renting an office from me. And he said, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a big watch collector. He's like, let me guess, you're a music producer. So, you know, you collect 5711s and the Rainbow Daytonas. And then I sent him like my vintage collection. He was like, oh shit, my bad. He's like, why don't you come to the vintage show? And just come to the booth, come hang out.
Yeah.
And then he was having his party at Wall and Grace after.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And legit, I walked in and all of a sudden I saw all the people that I had been seeing in YouTube, and it was almost like a starstruck moment. I was like, God.
Yeah.
Damn,
you had Watch Eric.
Watch Eric.
Shout out to Watch Eric.
But it's crazy because I've been around celebrities my whole life. I've signed major celebrities. I've developed, you know, I managed them, but it was just like a funny moment. And then I realized, okay, there's so much more to this community I want to do. There's so much more to build in the club.
Sure.
And that's really where I think my new journey's at, which is really diverse in my collection. I have, you know, quite a large collection that ranges from Timex to G-Shocks to very expensive rare watches to, you know, things that are just I'm passionate about, micro brands or
like it's inclusive, right? It's not exclusive. No. And that's the old world.
Yeah.
You know, inclusivity, there's too many choices, too many brands.
Yeah.
So you've got a couple other watches you brought with me. Tell me about tell me the story behind that G-Shock.
Obviously, you know, we all grew up around G-Shocks.
Heck yeah, it's one of my first watches. I grew up water skiing with a G-Shock.
So to me, G-Shocks is the best. And I worked on this project with one of my artists called Tiny, that the project was called Data. And the basis of the project was that we created Cena, this character, this anime character that essentially would get loaded up with data that was the music, right? And that's what built her personality. And a fan built this watch. This album was extremely successful, you know, top album of the century in Rolling Stones. It's a defining moment to my career, not only because of what the album did from a success point of view, but because I was able to take someone like a Tiny from being a music producer to being one of the world's biggest, most successful artists and influencers. And this album and this watch signified that moment in my career. And a fan did this
like a marriage of everything, of genius, right?
Everything. And the fan did send me this watch because he wanted us to mass produce it and release it for the anniversary. And we ultimately didn't because we had moved on. But you know, it lights up and it has like the name of the album.
That's so cool.
Cena is pink and it's kind of like robotic. It has all the cables leading to the head. The name of the company.
Year is this from?
This was 2023. Yeah. And so
is he an artist?
He's an artist. He's an artist and a producer. This is the album Data, which was a multi-platinum album. And this again, it's just a meaningful watch for me. And I know we wanted to talk about some things that it's not the norm.
Yeah.
Like this is one of one. I'll never have that.
Oh gosh, yeah. Absolutely.
So this is the kid in me. I love Snoopy.
You love Snoopy. So you grew up like reading like the funny paper, like in the newspaper?
100% grew up.
Peanuts?
My father used to have a bunch of them, and I just grew up loving Peanuts. We actually have a cool collaboration coming out with 060 and Peanuts later this year.
No kidding. Oh, wow.
But I saw this watch. It's a Timex, and I loved it because it looks like the second hands is floating, and it's a tennis ball.
Yeah. So is this what the re-edition is going to look like? Something to this is going to be inspired by this?
No, I'm not doing this specifically, but we're doing something really, really cool with them. And we got to play with the brand.
And you're licensing through Charles Schultz?
Yeah, so we're licensing the brand, and we're doing something really cool for the 060
so
launch.
This is the Timex Peanuts, Snoopy Tennis Anyone.
Yeah.
I love, what is it? I forget what they call that.
And I just loved how the tennis ball seems like it's floating, you know? It's a cool
that
segment.
reminds me of the Omega Speedmaster Snoopy with the floating. I'm sure it was inspired, because that's been around. That's an old watch, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you really start to see the inspiration for that moon, or that,
Yeah.
That's so
I
funny.
love that. And I think, look, I think for one of the things I like to talk about in the club is that it's not about the value of the watch, it's how it represents you and express a part of you.
Listen,
and exactly,
you're right. Since 2000.
So, and this again, I grew
Omega
up,
Speedmaster,
the Michael Schumacher edition.
the Michael Schumacher. This is the automatic 38 reduced.
Yeah,
Love. I cut my teeth on these things, and there was nothing cooler than the Omega tire tread set for the Schumacher Speedmaster.
100%.
Right? I mean, those are cool.
They were cool.
Frank Mueller had an Endurance 24 watch that was a similar packaging.
I got to look that up now.
I thought the packaging was cooler than the watch.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I love that stuff.
Michael Schumacher.
This
I
is
grew up watching
fantastic.
Formula One.
Yeah,
I
of
knew I
course.
wanted one of the editions. I like smaller size watches. So this to me,
This
the
is the
dial
World
with the
Champion
checker.
2000, man. And what I love about this one, Omega never individually numbered that many of their special edition watches, and this is one where they made $4,000, 4,000 pieces.
And so I love that one. I got it from Japan, and
that's
it's just
awesome.
it's a cool watch.
Yeah, that is awesome. And this to me speaks of 2005, 2006. This is so cool.
And the racing pedigree, it again expresses my love for cars.
Yeah.
For Formula One, because I grew up
And this is
watching.
the exotic, and you're nothing if not exotic.
Yeah, 100%. Call that.
Man, I think I want to buy one of these.
It's honestly, it's so good.
This is before you had carbon fiber, really. So it's like a mock carbon, like checkering on the dial. But
The coloring detail of the red and the round
I think
orange.
I may have to go find one of these.
It's super cool, man. And the Japanese, shout out to the Japanese because they know how to keep their watches like pristine. But like this is, I love this. And the fact that it has racing on the dial. I mean, there's just no better watch for someone who loves racing.
100%. Like this was their Daytona.
Yeah.
This was their Daytona.
I was. So that's a little bit of the kind of journey in some of these sentimental watches that are, significant
That is
in my
so
life.
cool. So help me understand where you were, where you are today relative to, so you consider yourself essentially a marketeer and influencer.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I'm a curator of culture. That's how I like to say. Like, it's historically what I've done is I could enter a business and kind of create an understanding, feeling, an emotion that then disrupts because I look at the space where it's at.
Sure.
And my intro into the watch and car world through the brand 0 to 60 has been to say, okay, where are the holes in the marketplace? What is it that the brands are not thinking about? Brands have to learn how to communicate and storytell because it's not something natural to them, right?
Sure.
It's usually more about the product and the product being incredible. But
the technical language doesn't sell watches.
So for me, has been really about storytelling. It's been about creating moments and being a disruptor to it. And I think that's why probably the growth from like starting with nothing to becoming collector of the year and all these things is seen is because it's the same ideas I've used in music for many years to build an artist. It's kind of the same thing you're seeing here. And it just works because it's touching on human emotion, being real, right? Like, this is not, I don't have a secondary motive. I'm not trying to sell somebody on something.
Sure.
It's the idea that I can have.
I feel the energy, bro.
Yeah.
Like to me, and I've said this many a time, like watches are about energy. Yeah. I can't think of a single watch where you're like, oh, this is bad. Like when have you ever picked up a watch and said, no good. Like it's all about the energy and like celebration.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's celebration of, a gift from someone that you'll never, forget and have forever, or just like this kind of like where you came from. This is so, I don't want to say basic, but like, it's thematic. It has a story.
Yeah.
You know, and I get where your music comes from. And to me, like what you're doing is just, you're singing songs about watches, but you're using a different language. And I think that's pretty awesome. I think that is pretty awesome.
I'm enjoying the journey, man. I'm enjoying the journey. There's so much more to go. There's so many ideas I have. There's a couple of like really big news will drop throughout the year this year. So I'm just getting started.
That is
I'm
awesome,
warming up
man.
the engines. You know, I did a little warm up.
Yeah, man.
I haven't started boxing yet, so it's more to come.
That's awesome. I love what you're doing. I'd love to be a part of it. If there's any chances or opportunities for collaborations, I'm your guy.
Always. And I love the idea that even after all the things you've done in your career, that you're staying so true to you being a Panera guy. You came here, Arnold Schwarzenegger it out. Okay, I love it. So shout out to you, man, and shout out to Second Time. Shout out to the team here.
Shout out, baby. Yeah, such a great pleasure.
Yeah,
so
man.
much fun, man. Thank you so much for your time today, and we'll look forward to having you on again.